Hello, team. So we're on episode 69, which is the one coming up. And it's part 2 of one that me and Ray did from episode 66, which is all about how to choose a life partner and why it's so important. Now, side note, it's school holidays where we are. And we've had a day of trying to make sure we're spending as much time with the kids, but also just making little progress. So we recorded the podcast episode this morning. And I've been editing on and off during the day. Not that it takes long, but I didn't press record. I didn't get the right mics to record. So in our new studio, wonderful studio, the microphones that were on our chest were not working. And so I've had to edit the sound a little bit. It does get better as the episode goes on. You just get used to the pitch. So I'm just going to be authentically acknowledging that. And secondly, I've just come up from the kids screaming and fighting with each other. And yeah, I just think it's part of the journey, isn't it? Like I was sitting about to record and then the youngest screams because the second youngest is smashed his tower over and you go in there and I was like, it was so like, it's just part of it. So I just wanted to recognize that you're still part of this journey where we're building it up. We're going to have mistakes. We're going to keep you guys in the loop with it all. But specifically with today's episode, I really hope you enjoy. There's four like strategies that we kind of say we've discovered inadvertently by mistake or through whatever it is that me and Ray have gone through. We've been together since we're 18. So there are lots of different ways to look at how we come around things. It doesn't mean that everything's easy. It doesn't mean we do these all the time. But these are the things that we do discuss and we help. And we've really had to learn to discover about each other through by hook or by crook. So I hope you do enjoy it, and then let me know what you think by the end of the episode, if this actually resonates with something that you didn't recognize already or you were in the process of recognizing, or if you have any tips and tricks of your own. Right, with no further ado, here is the fantastically edited episode that you have all been waiting for. All right, have a great day.
Hi, welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your hosts,
Ray
and Don. So, welcome back, everyone, and Ray, nice to have you back. I've had a couple of guest lectures, a guest
episodes, and you did a couple of solo ones. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. So it's good to have you back. And we're back in the studio, which I love being in.
Didn't you film the other ones in the studio?
No, obviously you've watched the ones and you've seen the reason why. I'm not.
I haven't.
No, so because they do the guests one online.
Okay.
I haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm comfortable setting up and interviewing people online here. So it's all, if you've got any suggestions and you're watching this, we're open to it.
Or you can have people come in person.
Yes.
Because like Bob is local.
Yeah, except I was on his podcast. Okay, anyway, we're getting sidetracked. We have a conversation on that today. So, what is today about? Well, we did an episode 66, I think it was, which is why choosing your partner is so important and what to look out.
Yeah, it's one of the most important decisions you'll make.
It's probably the most important decision you'll make, because your partner can either make or break your life. So we then had someone reach out and be like, "Yeah, that was amazing. This episode, I loved hearing you guys talk about it. I've got a couple of follow-on questions, and please could you do another episode on something similar? It'll really help."
We love getting feedback and being able to answer questions.
Yeah, because we don't have to guess what people want to hear. We're like, I know at least one person is going to be listening to this and be like, okay, here we go. So you've obviously heard a bit of back and forth.
Yes.
And do you want to summarize what you think it was about? Don't need to go.
What's the question?
Yeah.
I understood the question as, and it was quite an emotive question for this person because it was a voice note, so we heard him talking. I understood the question as, if you are, like, you're dating, you're trying to, or not dating, doesn't matter actually, but you with someone and you're trying to decide, or you may be struggling with connecting with them because of what, based on the various bits we spoke about, like your personal development journey, etc. How do you know, the key question I took away from it, how do you know when to call it quits? How do you know when that person is going to be able to join you on your journey versus it's just time to call it quits? And for me, layered into that question, I saw the opportunity to discuss not just about calling it quits, but how you can maybe in your next relationship or in your current relationship, build in sort of, strategies or steps that are going to help you not get to that point that you need to feel that you need to call it quits. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. And I'm always going for this is us because we haven't called it quits. So I can't give advice on when you should call quits because we haven't called quits yet, right? So in my head, it's like the calling quits, if that's coming to my mind, it's like, okay, there's other ways to do this because, and then we've always had that conversation on the grass is always green on the other side. You can always make things work. It just depends on how hard are you willing to do it. What are you willing to accept within yourself and within the partner? And I think your mom actually gave some really good advice when we first started dating. She said, don't learn to love the person for the things you do like about them. Learn to love the person for the things you don't like about them. Because it's easy to love someone for the good things. Yes. And that's like that honeymoon period.
Who gave you that advice?
Your mom.
Oh, my mom. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what did she know something I didn't? She was like, listen.
You have to deal with Ryan. You better learn to love.
She gaslit me into doing it. No, and I think it's really good advice because we all fall for that honeymoon, the best picture that we see. And then you know, there's a saying that I really like. It says like, we're all horrible people to live with. And then it says, but even you. So if you're reading, it's like, oh, people are horrible to live with. Yeah, they are. And then it's like, the next bit is like, even you. And you're like, oh yeah, I must be pretty horrible to live with. So it is that if you can learn to firstly love someone for the things you don't like about them, immediately you're not holding any contempt.
And then I think we're on a very similar train of thought with that because my thoughts are when this question came in, I thought to myself, well, should you be relying on your partner to be the person that goes like that is part of your personal inventory, that is part of having those very deep like conversations? And I think yes, you can find that in someone, but it doesn't have to be completely reliant on your partner. I think you can find it in other ways. It's like you can't expect your partner to be everything for you. They can't be your personal trainer. They can't be your psychologist. They could be one of those things, but they can't be your personal trainer, your psychologist, your best friend. They can't have every title.
Yeah, it's too insular.
So I think there's a fine balance of what's important to you, but I think kind of the road that we're both going down is that like, Don said you have to learn to love someone for the things they can't, like they're negatives. And I suppose one of the things that Don and I have is that, and maybe it's worth us explaining this, is that Don loves to go deep. Don is like a deep, like explorer, thinker, like it describes it like a psychologist, philosopher, like you love exploring
use a metaphor
and fleshing out topics. Whereas I am more like a surface level, like let's just crack on and do it. And so I suppose where I'm saying you can't be everything for someone necessarily. And you're also saying that you love someone despite, you can't just love them for things that you enjoy about them. You also have to learn to love them for the things that you don't enjoy about them. And so we're both saying a similar thing, like you can't expect your partner to be everything.
Yeah, and because I think you're setting someone up to fail. So there's two things. The metaphor that we could use is like, because the person that commented used to be like a rescue diver.
Oh, yes.
And they're like, yeah, she was like, I like to go deep. Like, and it's a rescue dive analogies. You've got layers and you have to go deep, but some people can't go that deep. It's really frustrating.
And she said she would have conversations with someone and they would be like, oh, you're going deep. And she was like, we're only on the surface.
your deep is my shallow.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is we've had conversations like that.
Yeah, when the question came through, it was funny because we've explored this topic over the last couple of years around like I reach my point where if I was a diver, my ears are going to burst.
You're like a snorkeler. I'm like the deep diver that's on.
Yeah, I'm like a snorkeler, and I just cannot go deep. I don't have that gas tank on me to hold my breath and go deep.
It's like Ray holds her breath. She's like, right, I'm going deep. You know, she goes. She's like, I don't get all the way back up there. Like the panic and the pressure starts to come in.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Like I've dove down. I'm going to take a big lung full. I'm going to go on this conversation with them. We're going to go deep.
And then I'm just like, yeah, we're not even. Sure. Okay. And then you got to go up and get a breath and come back down.
Yes. And then
I'm like, hold your leg.
Which is a perfect analogy because I have to okay, I've gone deep enough for today. My brain is frazzled. Can we revisit this in a few days' time? So I go up for my breath.
No, that's how I grab the leg and pull you down. So you didn't start to panic because you're about to drown. And I'm like, what's you panicking about? It's nothing. Yeah, just take my aid, right? But yeah, it's an analogy.
It is a fucking analogy because it's like a perfect visual of genuinely how I start to feel in the conversation because I just kind of like someone losing oxygen and they lose focus.
No,
My brain literally just goes, well, what? Like, where are we now? Like, I'm completely
So the next layer to
focus.
this is, I put on this diving suit because I'm used to going deep, right? And the water takes time to warm up in it.
Yeah.
So as we get to the level that you start to panic, I get to, I'm like, oh, the water's finally getting warm. So I'm getting comfortable and you're getting uncomfortable. I'm like, and then you start to panic. I'm like, wait, what's going on? I thought we were, and then yeah.
So we have, I suppose, in recognizing this, and you can see fun and humor in this as we go along. We kind of, when Don and I were discussing how we would approach this question, I kind of said, I think there's like a few sort of, I don't know, like strategies or steps we put in place that have helped us.
First starts with awareness.
Yeah, so
like
awareness.
If we're not aware that you're the snorkeler and the scuba diver, like we're going to constantly be trying to drag each other down and lift each other up in the ways that we don't want to. And that's, I think we used to have a lot of clashes like that. I didn't realize that I was like, I want to flesh all of this up. I want to go deep. And you're like, I can just take a break. I'm like, no.
And I also almost didn't realize that, like, that's what you wanted, that you want, like, that for me, I didn't understand that you just wanted to keep fleshing out and going deeper and deeper on topics. And we're not even necessarily talking about things we argue on. It could just be saying that Don's really interested in. And I'm kind of like, oof, I'm maxed out now. Like, we've been having the conversation about this thing for, depends on the topic, for 20 minutes, and I'm maxed out.
And maybe another one that we stumbled upon, and I think it was because I kept coming to you with like things that excited me, like, oh, I've read this, and you were like, okay, and I get upset. And eventually I said, I think I saw it somewhere, read it, or I can't remember how I came about it, but it was like, you can't expect someone else to be as excited about something that you're excited about, because it's not your excitement, it's not their excitement, it's yours.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and all the time, there are obviously things that, like, when you're aligned, you've got things that excite you, but it's unfair. Back to your analogy, your thing earlier, is like, if there's 15 different things that I have to expect from you, I can't expect you to be all 15 of those. And then if you don't get excited about that, I'm like, oh, you don't love me. It's like, well, hang on.
Yes.
What about these other 13 that I was completely on board with? Like, you're an individual at the end of the day.
And talking about being aligned and opportunities for alignment, where you can have moments of excitement together, those can definitely happen, and we'll touch on that and should happen. And that, so you may not expect me to always be that person that can go deep, but we should still seek some moments in the relationship where we can have those moments and those exciting moments together. It just doesn't need to be all the time. And so we'll come to that in strategy 2. I just want to finish on strategy.
Oh, you've got steps.
I want to finish on strategy 1, and then we'll delve into that. So around strategy 1, with the kind of what I would say, like the communication and awareness, you could use our analogy of diving and snorkeling and things like that about level of deepness. And thanks to the person who submitted the question, because she got our juices flowing on that analogy. But I think it's just important, whether you use that analogy or just talk about the level of deepness that you guys like to explore topics in your relationship. I think it's important to have that conversation. You can have it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend having it in the moment.
You're going to be aware of patterns. You're going to be just like I said, it always starts with self-awareness.
Yes, but just like next time, that not when one of you is feeling frustrated, but just bring it up. Just be like, I've really noticed this pattern where you want to keep exploring a topic and I can't, or whoever's bringing the conversation up, and actually talk about. Well, I've been thinking, like, and make this recognition. Like, say, are you a snorkeler? Let me describe that, or are you a scuba diver? And you might find that you also are a scuba diver on certain areas of life, but a snorkeler in others.
Like, you don't want to scuba dive where there's no fish deep, so you're not interested. But if there's like some tropical fish or an octopus down there that you like, it's the world's unique one, I'm going down there.
Yes. And I think, and in a lot of ways, if you found a job or a career that you really love, it's not one that you hate, you probably are a scuba diver in your career, in your job. Like, I'm a scuba diver in like software and accounts and numbers. So I'm not going to expect Don to be a scuba diver there. Okay.
Imagine I was. How much deeper would I go? What would I know?
But like, if we link it up to personal development, because this is where this question comes in. Like, so let's talk about scuba diving in the space of personal development and personal growth, and that's where this question came. And what happens if one of you is someone who just loves personal development, loves advancing themselves, and then also naturally is a scuba diver as opposed to a snorkeler and wants to go deep? And so that then feeds onto strategy 2, which you kind of touched on. Like, what can we do in terms of like making sure that we can sometimes be aligned? What are your Like, yeah, I know we've discussed this before.
I suppose we've spoken around like you have to do it at the right time, which so like I can't come to you in the middle of you working.
Yes.
And expecting you like when you're in focus and focus on something to then just give me your attention and go deep. So the timing is really important.
Yeah, so I've got my strategy 2 and 3 mixed up here. So strategy 2 that we spoke about was like timing and almost like asking permission.
Yeah, I mean it sounds a bit formal. I was thinking when you said that earlier,
not
I was
permission.
like,
Permission is the wrong
you don't
word.
want to set up this relationship with so many rules. It's more of having an understanding, and it's not permission, but it's like, is this a good time? That's not asking permission. That's checking in that are you busy or are you.
It's almost like showing respect and love. That like, are you in the headspace to like have a cool chat about this?
Because internal motivation is important. This is me going a bit deeper. And if you don't have the internal motivation to do it, you're not going to be fully committed to that conversation, and it's going to be frustrating.
And like the best example that I can give of, I'm not sure we've explained the strategy 2 properly. So strategy 1 is having that conversation and understanding your level. Strategy 2 is around finding the right time and just checking in whether that your partner's in the headspace to go deep in that moment. And where we got this principle or idea from that we've since applied is I've listened to lots of interviews of successful couples that run a business together. And you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, never go into business with your partner because, then you're mixing like, it's just where do the lines get drawn and it can get messy. And in the last year, I've probably listened to 8 or 10 interviews of different couples who are successful. And there's a common thread there. And that is that they develop a very clear boundary for when they are in business mode versus couple mode. And they all have different strategies for doing that. Some of them will have like set time of the day or, you know what I mean? The most common strategy that I've seen around that is literally just saying, someone will say, I want to talk about work now, like, is it okay? And then the couple who's being asked can be like, no, actually right now, I really just want to focus on you and the kids, cooking dinner, I don't want to talk about work. Or they can say, actually, yeah, let's have a work chat. But it's opening that up to say, are we in couple mode, like husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, or are we going to have a business chat? And by doing that, it just makes sure people are in the right framework, right mindset. And I like what you said, Don, about like internal motivation. And it's around, I don't know, I feel like you could describe it really well.
Well, you're just tapping into internal motivation. It's like a kid with ADHD can be very interested if they're interested. But if they're not interested, they're just like looking around. That is the metaphor that I'd use. If I'm coming to you at the time that you've got something else in your mind,
yeah,
as much as you want to try, it's going to be so hard because your mind is just elsewhere. So internal motivation is like, are you ready? Are you open to having a conversation? So it's checking in your headspace. Like, I don't know if you've had a really busy day, if you've got 16 emails on your mind that you're like just trying to work through. And then I'd come along and just be like, boom, look at this deep, like we're going to connect the world and there's this doc. And you're just like, I'm trying really hard to focus, but I've got stuff on my mind.
Yeah.
So that internal motivation is it's basically just a check-in.
And for me, when I heard you say internal motivation, and also I like the idea that if someone says, I would love to like chat to you about this topic. I don't know, whatever, you'll find a way that you phrase the question to your partner, sorry. And I like that I'm saying, yes, I'm ready. I'm not being dragged under. Like, it's like imagine I'm snorkeling on the surface and you like pull me under without my permission. And I'm like, whoa, I was surface snorkeling. Whereas if someone asks me, I'm like, okay, cool, yes, I'm going to come on this journey with you. And it feels like more permissive, like as opposed to just being dragged along.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to think of like how because we do this now naturally. Like when it comes to other business or Don wanting to have, because I'm clearly in this conversation with myself, and Don's the louder. So when it comes to Don wanting to have a chat about something, and what phrase or how do we normally start the conversation to kind of engage? I think what normally happens is you'll present, oh, I saw this really exciting thing.
And then I'll pick up your... and I'll go, oh, sorry, wrong time. Yeah.
And then sometimes you'll say, oh, do you have time to chat about it? And I'll be like, I think that's kind of what you say. Do you have time to chat about it? I'm like, yeah. Or, no, actually, I'm just really busy. I've got so much going on. So I'm going to this and book this in with the kids and cook this meal and plan this.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, cool, let's chat about it later.
Yeah, and I think it does take a level of, if you think about personalities, too. Like we do have things that we're opposite on, and like you like to get quite driven, and when you're in flow, leaving you in that flow is way better for you because on the other side of it, you come out way more present and available.
Yes.
I know it sounds like not in a negative way. So I've had to learn that, like, because I want to talk about it now, that doesn't give me the right to stop you from doing what you were doing. So again, it's like respecting your boundaries and not thinking that my things are way more important than anything else you've got going on.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we don't realize how we put all of us onto someone else and get upset because they're not ready to like take it. Now it's, and in our life, and it's very specific to our kind of lifestyle that we live. Like
with 4 young kids.
4 young kids, you've got your own businesses, I got my own businesses. Like both of us are trying to make things happen and also trying to keep harmony and
work on our relationship.
And work on a relationship. So we're not, the pillars of prosperity, the 5 pillars of prosperity, or whatever. It's like family is important, relationships are important, so is money. And because you could have a really happy family, be really healthy, and have no money, and you're not going to say that you're prosperous.
So what are the 5 pillars?
I'm not going to rattle them off here. No, I'm not going to rattle them off. There would be like social, family, health, relationships.
So then is it wealth?
Wealth.
Yeah. It's social, family, health, wealth.
Wealth.
And
that would be 4. And then I can't remember all that stuff. Pillars aren't important because you're not, like, I had this conversation with someone yesterday. They're like, it was wrong. But you have like a 4-pillar framework. Like, not really, because in the moment, you're not going to remember my 4 pillars. They've got to be intrinsic. So I don't rattle them off like mirror. I would just know them. Like, if you said to me, how's life? I say, it's going really well, but I'm not, in terms of all of my life of prosperous, there'd be an area that I go, that's not quite there. So, okay, so in order for you to feel like you're being prosperous, all those things that are important to you, whether it is just those 4, they have to be in a good space. Otherwise, you're not going to feel like you're making progress.
Yeah.
3rd step.
So the 3rd strategy I would say is you've got this deep person.
Yeah.
You've got this shallow person. We've said you've firstly strategy 1 or step 1, you've recognized that you are the deep or the shallow person.
Boundaries and structures, yeah.
Step 2 is the boundaries and structures and finding out opportunities. But if you stop there, you would probably find that the deep person was very frustrated because they're probably not going to get enough opportunities to go deep. And I think when deepness is something that you like to do and really explore topics and flesh things out, it's a little bit like a love language. Your partner doesn't need to do it all the time, but you need to have those moments with them to feel connected.
And sometimes your timing is important. And if your timing isn't met, that's like a bid for.
Yes. So for me as a shallow person, I can be like, okay, I'm either going to force myself, even when it feels uncomfortable, to go on this journey with them. But even then, I must say, as a shallow person, there's only so long you can
Shallow thinker.
Shallow thinker. There's only so long, because I'm more of a doer than a thinker. There's only so long you can hold your breath for. So at the end of the day, there isn't going to come a point where you're going to need to strap a gas tank on your bag and go and explore a topic with them. And I would say the best and most exciting way to do it is to do a bit of if it's personal development, which I think this is largely around, do a bit of a personal development journey yourself. Actually go to your deep thinking person and be like, so tell me 5 of the recent books you listened to, or 5 of the recent podcasts you listened to. And we do this sometimes, and then I'll take the one that I feel is outside of my comfort zone of what I would normally listen to. Because my books I listen to are like, right, action, do this, action.
And I'm like, how do I know how to take that action? What if
John's books are like, here's a whole book thinking about this one topic. I'm not mocking you, but it's just how my brain goes. And when you've recommended that book or that podcast to me, and I've actually really enjoyed it. So I don't just take one recommendation. I say, tell me, like 5 recent ones, and then we'll ask a few questions and we'll agree on one. And we listen to podcasts together, and I'm not necessarily meaning we sit and listen to them together. We do that sometimes, but we'll just share a podcast and say, hey, listen to this one.
Yeah.
And I think you then are naturally, and it does take the shallower thinker person to be like, I suppose this is a communication, but being interested in doing this. But by us doing a bit of like parallel personal development together, and that personal development could be as much as let's explore eating keto. Like it could be the way you eat, the way you exercise. It could be more typical personal development around the way you think or the way you I don't know, process information or whatever that may be, or the way you communicate. So it can be like a softer personal topic or a deeper one. And I think just do a few podcasts together or read a book or go on a course, and then I think naturally those deeper conversations come because you almost, it's like a cheat.
I go fishing.
It's a cheat code.
I essentially have I'm at the bottom of the ocean with the float.
Pulling it down.
And I leave the float up. And at the right time, you'll swim past and like, ooh, that's a nice float. And as you grab it, I'll pull you down.
Well, I was going to say it's a cheat code for the shallow thinker because they get to almost like teleport themselves to like halfway deep.
Yeah.
And like they take some of the thinking that the book's already done and then actually have a really cool conversation with that deep thinker, but not have had to do the work to get to that point.
But what was funny is, you said sometimes we'll listen to the same podcast episode. Mm-hmm. There'll be times you're like, this podcast episode was amazing, like that, like take that action. I'm like, I listened to that yesterday and I got none of that. Like I sometimes like, how did you get that? Because I know it's so valuable, but it just didn't resonate with me in the slightest.
I'll get so excited for the podcast episodes that are like, here's the stat and this is what you should be aiming for. And I'm like, this is insane. I'm going to go implement this and this. And you're like, oh, nothing.
I just walk away like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to be excited about it.
And that's me as the shadow thinker, action taker, recommending a podcast to you. And it doesn't go that way. It's when you take a podcast that's made you think differently and bring it to me that I think really enables those types of conversations.
Yeah, no, it is. And then I think one of the other strategies that we've also talked about but not really embraced yet is I can't always expect you to be the person that can go deep when I need to go deep. So you have to have someone.
Oh yeah, so that was, I suppose, number 4. So number 3 is to try and get your partner to do a few, like use external resources to kind of stimulate conversation. And then number 4 would be where we said at number 1, your partner can't be everything.
Yeah.
To recognize as the deep thinker that you need to look for that in friends.
You have a friend, a social group, a community. There's lots of different
mastermind groups.
Yeah, and I think it's the intention behind it is what's important. Is you have to intentionally know that if your partner can't, like if you accept and love your partner for who they are, there's just some things that they're not going to be able to give you, or if they do, you're forcing them into it, which doesn't, in the end, that's what we call sacrifice. You always end up regretting a sacrifice because it means you gave up something you wanted to do for something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're not making sacrifices because the sacrifices are things you end up regretting. And I wouldn't want you to sacrifice who you are to please me because I know in the end that's how you create content. And content is one of the 4 horsemen of a marriage, right? The dark horses of a marriage.
Yeah.
Like you've got to recognize content and get rid of it as quick as possible. So it is about finding your fellow scuba divers, your fellow like rescue divers, and just know that when you need to have a conversation, they'll be there. They don't want to have conversations every single day, but if you need it, you intentionally go to them if you know that it just has to happen now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How about this? So there's one other thought, like a definition of love. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. Is we've always thought that love is like the joining of 2 to become 1.
Uh-huh.
Right? So you think about like when you're getting married and let's say the joining of 2 to become 1. But don't you think that possibly creates a take? Like I've joined you, so therefore I expect you to give me what I need.
Yeah.
And that's really unfair, right? Because you don't know what I need, but I only know what I need. I need to communicate that. Could we not define love as it's being so good on knowing who you are that I don't need anything from you, and therefore I can give whatever you need. And if you do the same thing, we're constantly giving to each other, that creates far better harmony because we're so good with what we are and what we need from wherever we like. I'm in such a great space that when I'm with you, I'm just thinking, how do I give you love? How do I give you your love language? How do I give you what you need? And I don't expect anything back. Because I think that's where we get lost sometimes is we go, well, I'm not okay, therefore I need you to make me okay. Yes. And can you not see that you're not making me okay? So therefore I'm going to blame you and shout at you and I thought you loved me. But it's a skewed version of love. Like if you really love someone, we always say this, like work on yourself. So that when you are around the person you love, you're not there going, oh, I need them to cuddle me. I need them to tell me that I'm important to them. I need them to tell me that they love me so that my insecurities feel better. Is you go and work on yourself so much that anything I have with who I am, I can give to you in like a golden light and not give to you like and put my burdens or whatever it is on you.
100%. And I think we've learned that. I think even in
Or learning that.
I think we even in like I wouldn't say 2024, but like last year, we definitely noticed a pattern where I was, despite having everything amazing, I was very like, I had this like anger inside of me. And I was just day to day, I was happy, but I was unhappy. And you would spend a lot of your time, you would just be, I'm doing everything to make you happy. And you were frustrated because you were like, I'm just constantly, everything I do to make you happy. And I feel, and you would say to me, I feel like I'm failing because you're just unhappy. And I was just like, well, I'm just angry inside. I would say it was anger more than unhappiness. And I don't know why. And so we were stuck in this loop for a while where and I could see you bending over backwards, like giving me sleep and doing everything, like, how can I make Ray happy? How can I make Ray happy? And I was like, I'm just so angry. I'm just so angry. And actually, I was like leaning on you to be like, you know, if I get those things done, like, I'll feel happier. And you were giving me, and neither of us were kind of feeling happier, you know?
Yeah.
And I actually read a really interesting book that made me be like, and it's very similar to what you said, focus on yourself. Like what's on, and the book very much about like what's on your paper in terms of like if you were writing an exam paper. We were sitting each other as husband and wife, we're both writing our exam papers are life. Don shouldn't be trying to put stuff on my exam paper. I shouldn't be worrying about what's on his exam paper. Just answer your own freaking exam paper and focus on yourself. And by me focusing on myself and happiness and not worrying about what Don's doing and then giving him permission to stop trying to make him happy, focusing on yourself.
Yeah, so I shouldn't be in such a people.
We've ended up in a much better place in terms of like, not that we're in a bad place, but I mean, because I've worked on myself and there's a lot of strategies we can maybe discuss in another episode, I've lost that like anger that was inside of me that I carried around. I swear it was like a year or two that I was like, I'm just angry. And I couldn't place it. I just had this anger at so many things. And that's dissolved because I've worked on it.
I had a conversation with my mom yesterday and she was like, you're a very tolerant person, but you also have your boundaries. Because I always thought like, oh, how can I always like that example there, like give you sleep and do all that kind of stuff.
Just so much for so long.
But then it got to a point where I was just like, that's enough. Like I've done all this and still not making a difference. Therefore, you've got to find out what the issue is and just get on top of that. And I think that's it. Is the lesson for me was don't wait so long. Don't like sometimes tolerance is very needed, but sometimes tolerance can be the very thing that is undermining the progress that people need to make. So it's about like we talk about like holding your power, making sure that I'm not giving up everything about me to help you because that actually isn't helping you.
Yeah,
that's actually like mollycoddling in a completely roundabout way.
And how this links up to these like 4 strategies that we spoke about in terms of personal development and someone who wants to go deep versus shallow is I think you can communicate with your partner that you've maybe just this episode or that you have this idea of that recognize that you are deep and they're shallow or vice versa in terms of their way of thinking. Don't go call your partner shallow. Yeah. Okay. And whose phone's ringing? Is that yours?
We won't edit this out.
Okay, so that was ringing. So don't go call your partner shallow. But I think what you could do is you could explain to them that you maybe heard this idea, you've recognized this pattern, you've heard this idea, you communicate it to them. But then it's on them. It's not on you to make sure it gets implemented, to drag them along this journey. You explain to them what you think might be a fix, that you value the relationship, this is what you see working. And then it's still coming back to, you've made a suggestion, you've kind of, it's about being vulnerable, putting out, showing that vulnerability, showing that this is what you would love to happen, it would mean the world to you without expectation. Because you're giving that person the freedom to then decide. So you're going to show vulnerability, put the suggestion without expectation. You're not telling them what to do. And then you go back to focusing on yourself. And if things are meant to work out, if that person truly loves and cares about you, they will then come on the journey.
So the word I think that should sum it up is acceptance. Acceptance of self and who you are and how you are. And acceptance of others and who they are and how they are. Because when you accept who they are and how they are, you find the best in them. And you then see that. You're like, oh, okay, so I do know that you're an action taker. So I'm going to come to you if I'm not taking action. I'm not going to resent you because you say, I just need to go and take action. If that makes sense.
And what's the fine line between acceptance and compensating? So how do we make sure that someone isn't in a relationship where they constantly they're compensating and they think they're just accepting the person?
So yeah, it's a great question. It's like you got some insight there.
No, I was thinking of someone because you and I genuinely love each other, and there's no like toxicness in our relationship. But if you're trying to explore a new relationship and you're like trying to find that life partner, I don't want someone to listen to this episode and then do extreme acceptance, find themselves 5 years down the line and realize they compromise and they're actually really unhappy because they're not living the life they want to live.
Yeah.
I don't think we would do that to each other.
But then you haven't come to the acceptance bit. Like the acceptance bit is like I accept and love who I am and how I am, and that means I don't get triggered by the things that you do too. But if I get triggered, it means that there's no acceptance. There's somewhere in that triggerness or activating is a lack of acceptance. Does that make sense? So if I'm then compensating, I'll be like, oh, I'm having to do this. That's an activator.
But if I think about compromise, I'm not talking about just being triggered. Let's say someone, we don't have to take it for a shallow, but let's say someone's like core value is holidays, or they want to spend, or let's say that they want to spend important holidays like Christmas, etc., with family, and their partner doesn't, so their partner never lets them. And then they realize it's 5 years has passed and they've never had Christmas with their family because their partner doesn't want to. That would be
that's a core value that I think you have to align on core values.
Okay.
So because why does that person not want to spend time with family? And if it's something they're not going to want to do in the future, then your compensating for that isn't going to end well.
But that's what I'm saying. So if we go back to what I said about like you explain to someone these 4 strategies or steps, and you say it would be great, but I would love it if at some point, like if you would be interested if I recommended podcasts or books to you. But then what happens and then you just have to accept whatever they decide.
Yeah.
But what happens if 5 years have passed and they've never come and asked you about a podcast?
So that's not. I wouldn't put that as a core value.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
because I'm just going back to the original person's question on when to call it quits.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
You didn't do cold showers. You're like, I'll never do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I accepted it, right?
Yeah.
But I just did mine. And eventually it was inspirational enough or interesting enough for you to go, okay, I'm going to try it. So actually what you've got to realize is if I'm asking you to do a podcast or read a book and you're not doing it in 5 years, you still haven't done it. That's not on you. That's on me for lacking the ability to show how much difference it's made for me in what I'm doing to make you go, actually, yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
That's something to try. So I don't think it's a deal breaker, because if you don't take time to read an audiobook or a podcast, is that because life is going well for you, or if it's because you're struggling, that's different.
But it's not like you spend every day saying, "Wow, I'm getting a cold shower."
Yeah.
You never once said that to me. It's just not mentioned it, passing once or twice. But it was like a year and a half of you just doing it.
Yeah, and it's because put it this, I think the context that's maybe missing in your original question is why am I recommending a podcast or audiobook?
But it's going back to that original conversation you had with your partner, saying that it would help. That would be amazing if we could explore some of these topics together, and I can recommend some really interesting ones to you.
Yeah.
And so the reason that recommendation is happening is so that you can then satisfy your need to sometimes have a different conversation.
There's the next layer then is what is the reason you're not willing to be interested in what I'm interested in? And then the potential answers, because I think what you are interested in is a lot of fluff. Then it comes down to a lack of acceptance.
So your partner's not accepting you?
Yeah, your partner.
Oh, okay.
Your partner's judging how you are at a deeper level.
Okay.
So that they actually would go, like if that partner was analytical and you were saying, can you read this book that's all about manifestation?
Mm-hmm.
And they were a lawyer and they were like, it's complete nonsense, that's why I'm not doing it. They actually are not accepting a core part of your approach in life.
So they should be willing.
So they should be willing to be more open. But if they're not, then that's great. But 5 years down the line, that's contempt because they're still not loving the things about you that they don't love.
Yes.
And that, I don't think that ever ended.
And it's just important for the person who needs the deepness to just openly, I say, and vulnerably communicate that, but not try and force the person.
Yeah. So in that example, it's like I've asked you to read a manifesting book, and you're the lawyer, and you've gone, that's a load of nonsense. So listen. I understand that you don't agree with it.
Yeah.
This is a big part of who I am, and I want to explore it. And if you're not willing to understand that, eventually, I know where this leads. So when you talked about like,
that's quite harsh.
Well, no, but it is. So if you know yourself well.
Like, this is a big part of who I am. Is there another, like, can I show you a few other things that I'm looking at the moment, and maybe one of those will interest you?
Yeah,
and
but so yes,
all of those.
So I was being really to the point. But actually, we talk about not compensating, but accepting. So actually, part of not compensating is knowing your boundaries and knowing what your standards are.
Yeah.
If you don't like my standards, are you really the person for me?
Yeah.
And if you want to be the person for me, then you're going to show interest. If you don't, then we're just going to save 2 years of heartache there. And that's, the region beta paradox. Like those small things are going to add up.
Yes.
So make the big thing right now and go, this is who I am. Are you willing to love me for it? Yes, things may change. But if you're not willing to change, or not change, if you're not willing to show an interest in me, I'm going to ask you why. And if your question is because I actually despise who you are at your core, that's all you're going to be.
Yeah.
But you don't get to that layer without asking.
So hopefully that's useful for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've got any comments or questions or on part 3 on any of the aspects that we spoke about, just let us know. So, yeah. Anything else to say, Ray?
No, I enjoyed our chat.
Yeah, me too.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to it too.
Yeah. So remember, Ubuntu. We are who we are.
Did you forget what it was for a second?
I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. Have a great day.